What's up, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Between the Cons. My name's Chris. With me today, MasterMind-rebo returns.
Yes, good to see you. Well, hear everyone, or talk to you, because we don't really have barely interaction unless you comment.
Yeah, we don't have live interactions.
Oh, someday.
We should probably do like a live show one day.
Even just on Facebook.
That'd be
doing
really
like a
fun.
Facebook live episode.
Yeah.
That'd be so easy.
I wonder if we can do that from the computer.
We can.
Like right now. But anyways, we are here. We've got some topic thunder for you today, talking about staying true to the source material. Two quick things before we get started. Thanks for hitting us up on the internet this week. We really appreciate it. And everybody that's left a review on the iTunes store, thanks for that as well. If you don't know how to do either of those things, it's super easy. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Interact with us.
Yes.
Engage with us.
We want to know more about you.
And then leaving reviews on the iTunes store. It's legitimately as easy as going to the podcast page and clicking write a review. It's super simple. It takes like 2 minutes. No. It's not a big deal. And it helps people find the show. So check those things out. All of that being said, we are ready to talk to you guys about sticking true to the source material, staying true to the source material, sticking to the source material.
Sometimes good and sometimes bad.
And sometimes just kind of like right in the middle, which is something else. But we're going to get started. Here we go. Topic Thunder. So, like we were saying a second ago, staying true to the source material. We all want it. Yeah. It doesn't always work out. And sometimes it's good to stray away. So we don't really have a pros and cons list like I tried to have. We went down the adventurous path of trying to create a pros and cons list, but it's so this is good,
mixed
but
bag, yeah.
Like it's good, but there's also this. So we're just going to kind of talk through some things that are a result of sticking to or not sticking to the source material. Yeah. First one being a very strong strong argument for sticking to the source material, and that is fan service. Yeah. Go on any fan website, Geek Tyrant, Comic Book Resources, Screen Rant, yeah. Go on Reddit.
Gosh.
People want their movies, they want their TV shows specific to whatever the material is. And just kind of really quick, we're not talking just exclusively about comic book movies or whatever. I mean, we're talking literature, we're talking literature being like sci-fi fantasy novels, we're talking about comic books, we're talking about TV shows and movies. All of that stuff. So the fans want it. I know, for comic book movies, that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
Is give me a movie that
sticks to the source.
Yeah, that sticks to the source. And basically, I hate that. Yeah. I want it to stick to the source to a certain extent. Yeah. Because I don't want my best friends to be ruined.
Yeah.
Looking at some of the X-Men films,
The
Last Stand.
Yeah.
That was brutal for the fans.
It hurt.
So a great example of being very strict to the source material is Watchmen. And even still, Watchmen was so hit or miss with fans. And I have no idea why. I love Watchmen. Yeah. But when you go look it up, it has not great reviews. Yeah. Fans exploded about it. Yeah. And it is there's so many parts of that movie that are shot for shot
with the source
dialogue copied and pasted out of the source. Yeah. The only big difference is the ending. Yeah. And let's be honest, Watchmen fans, the ending in the comics didn't make a lot of sense. And to portray that into cinema, into the silver screen, you have to at least somewhat cater to the masses.
And really just saying you want something to make money. And it's just like you at different times have to change it because, well, honestly, we're a mob. We're a geek army. And then you also want to include everyone that is not in that army because, you know, even though we may go to a movie once or twice, that's still not enough to pay for those big actors and those producers.
Yeah, and dropping a giant octopus in the middle of New York City does not make sense for those viewers.
Yeah.
And that kind of like really easily segues into the next point of sticking too close to the source material limits the audience drastically.
Oh my gosh.
Because guys, I don't know if you know this, but we like really weird stuff.
Yeah.
We like superheroes. We like superpowers with aliens and
or just even normal guys that get changed into superheroes. You know, where it's like
or not even just superheroes, but like Star Trek. Like aliens on aliens on aliens, like made up languages, Klingon, made up languages for the show. Like all
characters
this kind of
like
stuff.
Indiana Jones or characters like, you know, Firefly, where it's like, you know, good old Western, you know, or you know, where it's just saying this is a normal person that is thrown into dramatic experiences.
Yes. And we love that. We eat that up, but that is not for everyone. Yeah. Which is why it has a fan base and not and it's not something socially accepted, or not socially, but like widely accepted. There we go. Yeah. So it's something that we like. I mean, not everybody's gonna like the same stuff you like. We should all know that.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing in that is we have to remember that though these are like our things, they're the things that we love, we have to share them.
Yep.
And to share them, just like with any kind of sharing anything,
you're not always going to get what you want.
There have to be sacrifices.
Yeah.
Like if I, let's say for example, completely hypothetically speaking, shared one of my comic books with Tori, and he took like 3 months to give it back. Like that means I have to go 3 months without having it. And that's not like the exact same.
It's
but
in a safe place.
I'm making the sacrifice of like handing possession over to Tori, and I'm trusting that he's going to enjoy it just as much as I am.
Perfect example.
So it's the kind of thing where you have to make sacrifices.
Yes.
And you have to be able to accept that.
Yeah.
Given, I do not think that means you should abandon everything. Like it should not be a completely selfless sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of things that have gone really bad. And we'll get to those in a second.
Yeah.
But one of the other things about sticking true to the source material, and we saw this really heavily with Fantastic Four, with Michael B. Jordan being cast as Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
He's a black man being cast as someone who has historically been a white character.
Yeah.
And his sister Sue Storm in the film was white.
Yep.
And it was, how is that going to work? What is this? Da da da. And it caused a lot of uproar. But you have to think, like, sticking that close to the source material basically says our movies deserve to be treated like they were produced in the 60s.
Yep.
Reed Richards, for example, furthering
down
the
Fantastic Four rabbit hole.
Reed Richards, for example, was
a
jerk. He was really sexist, misogynist. If you go back and read some of the original Fantastic Four, he would tell Sue to shut up.
Yeah.
He would tell her to quit acting like his wife.
Yeah.
And start acting
like a superhero.
Start acting like a teammate.
Yeah.
He would.
I don't think he ever struck her or anything.
Oh, he totally did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
it's a perfect example.
It was socially acceptable.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was socially acceptable at the time that if your wife talks back, you pop her in the mouth.
Yeah.
And that happened all the time in the original Fantastic Four. So if you're saying to stick that, like, you want the source material to be what the movie is solely about, then you're inviting all of these other aspects into it. Even with like some of the newer comics, there are some things that just should not be in modern film, and that will not be accepted in modern film. So we have to change
with the times, just like the comics and the movies are. Yeah. And that's a good thing.
Yeah, and on top of that, there was another big issue with Danny Rand, Iron Fist, being cast as Finn Jones, because it was a perfect opportunity. The argument is that it was a perfect opportunity for Marvel and Netflix to introduce an Asian character into the role of Iron Fist.
Yep.
That being said, I kind of sit halfway on the fence there.
I would agree.
I love the idea of having an Asian person playing Danny Rand and taking on the role of Iron Fist and doing that. But at the same time, like, that is like I also have that aspect of sticking to the source material. But I at least realize that is somewhat racially ignorant.
Yeah, and there's a lot of whitewashing. You can say that happens throughout comics.
The thing is these characters were created before like segregation. Or like, integration. Some of these characters were created before the Civil Rights Movement.
Yep.
So, even still, you have so many characters that are white, and so few characters that are people of color. Yeah. So it's
and even those people who have changed their opinions and views and adapted them. You think about Stan Lee, it's like he's absolutely kind of adapted his persona throughout the years and adapted his characters to such a high degree. But it's just saying, like, that is harder to do just in the film when you only get, really, for the most part, a one and done kind of thing. Where it's saying, like, this is your chance to create this character.
And I think it's the responsibility of the studios to encourage that.
Yeah.
Because I think that if we just continue down this path of sticking so closely to the source material that every character looks just like they do in the comics, then we're going to run into issues.
Absolutely.
Where it's not necessarily whitewashing, but there's just no opportunity for people of color to carry on
into this world,
and to break into the film industry.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing. A couple things against staying true to the source material, and these two kind of go together as one. When we have a movie based on a comic book, for example, The Losers.
Okay.
The Losers, one of my favorite comic books. It is a really interesting, like, ragtag bunch made into a movie starring Zoe Saldana and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Chris Evans was in it. Just a really great cast. Idris Elba was in it. But when you look at that and you say, I need it to be what the comic book was, you're saying that this movie, which is called a comic book adaptation, is not allowed to adapt to its new media form.
Absolutely.
So you have to think, like, people ingest the written word differently than they ingest a film.
Absolutely.
And you have to think there are certain things that are going to translate perfectly on paper that converted into film are going to feel awkward. They're going to feel forced. They're just not going to feel right.
You can't act that well. You literally, as an actor, cannot make that appear well. And we've got plenty of movies where when they do stick to it, you're saying, like, that was awkward. That was weird, forced, and I didn't like it.
And one of the biggest things is look back at Two-Face from the Tommy Jones incarnation to the
To the Dark Knight Christopher Nolan version.
Yeah. What is his name? I cannot remember. But
yeah,
irrelevant.
We'll get there.
But Tommy Lee Jones stayed true to the comics. He took on a Two-Face that was
Highly
written
comical.
that was written out. He was like kind of loony, kind of crazy, a lot like Jack Nicholson's Joker.
Yeah.
Just really over the top crazy and kind of like snapped, if you will. Whereas
Aaron Eckhart's character.
Aaron Eckhart, yes, that's it. He's in Thank You for Smoking, which is like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
But Aaron Eckhart, his Harvey Dent was based very, very, very heavily on Batman: The Long Halloween.
Yes.
Which is part 1 in a 3-part series by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And it is a totally different Two-Face.
Yeah.
He's a much more vengeance-driven, angry,
based in real life
occurrences
that take a person to the edge.
Well, but that's the thing is like you take one person to the edge and they snap, and they just don't have the connections that they used to have, and they're like. Something terrible is going on and they're laughing.
Yeah.
And then you have the other people when something they snap, and when something terrible is going on, they're getting angry and they're building up aggression.
Yes.
So you have those two different things. But the thing is that they're both based on the source material.
Absolutely.
But they're based on different aspects of the source material, which kind of brings into another point of what source material are you talking about?
Yes.
And this one's not even in the notes. I just kind of like built up to it. But especially when you're talking about the main comics.
Yeah.
And that's
the main universe.
Yeah.
Even.
Like the big name Hulk, Captain America, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Aquaman. Like there have been so many different ways that these characters have been written.
Yeah.
That there's no real place to go digging for source material. I mean, we talked about last week Charlie Cox getting ready for the Defenders. He didn't know how to do a team up. He didn't know how Matt Murdock would respond to that. And I'll tell you right now, you're not going to find that in The Man Without Fear. You're not going to find that in the Murdock Papers.
Yep.
You're not going to find that in almost any Daredevil book because he is such a standalone character.
Absolutely.
And he has that inside him. But at the same time, he's done a number of team ups.
Yep.
He was involved with the Avengers for a period. He was in Civil War. He played a huge kind of background part in that.
Gosh, he even fought Deadpool.
Yeah. So it's like you can't say that there's one source material that it has to be derivative from.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. But on top of that, in comic books, I know Marvel a lot better than I know DC.
Same here.
But in comic books, in the Marvel universe, Earth 616 is the standard universe.
Correct, yeah.
There are hundreds of other universes.
So many parallels
in the Marvel
go along
universe
with their same loved characters that
go
are
back,
always changing.
Go back and just listen to the episode where Tori and I, MasterMind-rebo and I, talked about Apocalypse.
Yeah.
We talked about, I think, 4 or 5 different universes just in that episode, just on one character.
Yeah.
That being said, all of the Marvel movies that are coming out, all of the DC movies that are coming out, the studios have labeled them the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the DC Entertainment Universe.
Yep.
You cannot say this isn't sticking to the source material when it's creating its own universe. Civil War is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Civil War happened XYZ way in the comics.
Yep.
It was perfect. It was wonderful. I loved every minute of it.
Oh my gosh.
On top of that, the movie is very similar but different.
Yep.
But it brings back the point of Marvel had this thing that they used to do pretty often. They haven't done it so much recently, but it's called What If.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to Bullet Points.
Absolutely.
But it's taking characters, taking scenarios that we know, that we're very familiar with from a comic book
And
standpoint,
from the choices they've made.
and then flipping it to say if instead of taking a left, they took a right.
Yeah.
Or instead of, like Spider-Man, instead of Uncle Ben dying, Aunt May died.
Yeah.
And so it creates this whole new universe, this whole new, like...
And the amazing thing that it allows for is new writers.
Yes.
And it's just saying, like, if you don't allow for that kind of a change, well, it's just saying, like, you're stuck with one writer until
Forever.
that person dies.
Yep.
But it's just saying there are so many people with so many creative ideas, and the fact that actually, if we don't do this, we're going to get remakes and reboots of movies till the day we die because we're not allowing for new creativity to come into it. And you have to do that because I can't handle another Harry Potter right now. If we try and like remake that, it's just saying like, yeah, but it's, you know, if we create our own new stories and we come up with that, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And, you know, or even there's so many other examples. That was the first one that popped to my head, but you have to allow writers to create on their own
Yes.
so that they don't feel pigeonholed into this singular role for a singular character. And that involves whole new universes because it's from a whole new choice.
Yeah, but the thing is, the catch-22 there is, yes, it's a new universe. Yes, they have just seemingly unlimited opportunities.
Yeah.
Straying too far away is almost always bad.
Yeah.
And I would actually go ahead and take the almost out of that statement. Straying too far is bad.
It's bad. It's bad.
If you
So many examples.
If you got a Spider-Man movie where instead of being a superhero, it was actually like a centaur, but half spider, half man, and that's what the movie was about, but it was Peter Parker and it was Aunt May and it was all this, and like there were some similarities there. That's not Spider-Man.
No, it's
like
not.
I don't care how you decide to label it.
You can't make me like that.
Yeah, it's not. So a couple examples I've written of that are the Hobbit movies. Because they took a lot of liberties in the silver screen.
Yeah,
they expanded the story a lot, added a lot of stuff that wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Turned it into
shows,
3 movies.
It shows in the ratings. If you go look at the ratings,
They're awful.
The first one was pretty good.
We were all excited
The
about
first
it.
one was a good time.
We were jazzed, yeah.
I still really enjoy the first movie.
I actually own that one.
The second movie, that's the only one that we
yeah,
own.
I'm same here.
The second one was exciting.
Yeah.
But it wasn't good.
No.
The third one was
atrocious.
hot garbage.
Atrocious.
So that's an example. And then another great example is World War Z. If you read through Max Brooks's World War Z,
gosh.
it is a bunch of short stories. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a history of...
It's not a Brad Pitt film.
Yeah, it's a history of the zombie war. Yes. But there are a lot of, like, short stories that take place in that.
Yeah.
Whereas the movie was very akin to, like, The Walking Dead or, like, a zombie origin.
Yeah.
Where there's a zombie outbreak. We don't know how to deal with it. We come up with what we think is a good idea to deal with it.
Yeah.
We try and implement it. It goes backwards. And now there's, like... And there's always a chase scene.
Of course.
So
yeah.
it's... And World War Z, the movie, just... It was enjoyable. Don't get me wrong.
Fun.
I really enjoyed the entertainment aspect of that movie.
Absolutely.
It was a hot garbage
when compared
adaptation.
to the source. Yeah.
It was barely an adaptation. It had zombies and it was called World War Z.
Yeah.
So that is
a few character names were the same.
Yeah,
but-
that is a perfect example of straying too far.
Yeah.
But with that being said, straying is not always bad.
Yeah.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I'd say probably the top
Examples.
6 examples of
And
straying away from the source and
these
how
are-
it can be amazing.
These are the only, like, I have these because they're the ones that I've actually read and that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Inglourious Bastards.
Ah.
Perfect example. That movie was like a love letter to
Fantastic.
cinema.
Yeah.
It is so good.
Every bit about it.
But it's based on, like, history. Like,
Yeah.
it's based on actual history.
Yeah.
But so much of it never happened. Like,
Yeah, of course.
Tarantino took so many liberties with history
Yeah.
that it's not good.
And it's masterful
it's not
and comical
the same.
to the point of just saying, like, this is so not what happened, but it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's so over the top that it's like,
yeah.
I think that if someone watched it that even wasn't familiar with World War II history, they would know that it wasn't accurate. But there are, like, the Inglourious Basterds, like, that's based in truth.
Yep.
Like, the group of men that went around as, like, Nazi slayers, like, that's a real thing that happened.
Yep.
It's way blown out of proportion. It's very much a legend.
Yeah.
That's way more than it actually was, but it's rooted in truth. Another one is Jaws. Jaws, another great cinematic adventure.
Cinematic beauty.
Steven Spielberg found this book by the same name,
Yep.
Jaws, that was about a series of shark attacks, and it was probably the worst book I've ever read.
Yeah.
It is way too long and way too boring, and basically it ends with the shark dying.
Yeah.
From exhaustion.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It was such a disappointment. But the movie is so exciting. The movie's so exciting. It's about a giant shark, and it's about these two guys that, like, go out to catch it and kill it, and all this kind of stuff. Another example, Men in Black. Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones. Great movie. Sci-fi comedy. Based on a comic book of the same title, Men in Black. I dare you to pick up Men in Black, the comic, because
I've only read a few, to be honest.
The two characters are the worst people. They are the villains of the story. They kill people.
Yeah.
Like, they are not kill people. They like erase people's minds and basically use, like, a form of mind control to have people kill each other.
Yeah.
Aliens are very loosely involved. It is a very, very different story.
Yeah.
Deadpool, another great example.
Absolutely.
That one is not so much straying from the source,
not horribly.
but there are some bigger features that stray from the source there. But it was a great movie. Fight Club, the entire ending of Fight Club,
totally
where he's, like, up in the penthouse
building.
suite,
Yeah.
shoots himself. Like, that never happened in the or shoots himself, and then Tyler goes away.
Yeah.
And girlfriend, forgot her name,
I
comes back.
either.
That doesn't happen in the actual book by Chuck Palahniuk.
But what a great ending.
It comes, like, he winds up in the hospital.
Yeah.
And all the nurses and everybody are, like, Tyler Durden's, like, minions kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it was a great ending. It was so well written. So many people love that. It is a cult classic. And then there's Die Hard.
Oh, okay. I was like,
So,
I wasn't sure which one we were on. Yeah.
Die Hard is based on a book called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe.
Okay.
There are, like, maybe 3 or 4 scenes and themes that line up between the movie and the book.
Yippee-ki-yay.
The book, though not bad, it's not a bad book by any means. The book is horrible compared to the movie, because Die Hard is such a great movie. It is given an adventure, or not an adventure, an action movie. It is very over the top in certain places. A lot of it's very hard to believe
not
that it could happen.
Not steeped in reality and other things.
Yeah, he ties a fire hose around himself and jumps off a building. Like, that actually takes place in both the book and the movie.
Well, fantastic.
So, like, that's one of those things, but it's so different.
Yeah,
but
Die your spine breaks, in real life.
Right,
so.
but Die Hard is such a
cult classic.
I wouldn't even say cult classic. I would say it's just a classic.
Yeah, it's a Christmas special.
It's such a good movie. It's one of my favorite films. But it's so far away from the source material. But all of this kind of led me, as I was kind of going through and doing notes with Tori, it kind of led me to the question of if the adaptation is good, and good being a relative term.
Yeah, being absolutely multiple standards.
Yeah, whether it be just something that you find good or something that
storyline that flows with good characters, good development.
If it's
great adaptation to
good
that
for
degree.
the critics, good for the audience, good for like a small portion of the audience.
Yeah.
Like if you find it good, does it even matter if it sticks to the source material?
Yeah.
And that's kind of
that's what we talked
question.
About today. And it's like, and that's really just the hard dynamic and just saying, like, you know, just like we talked about many writers, you know, there are going to be many of us that have different perspectives on the same film, and you know, we'll all have different points of view as whether an adaptation is good or not.
Yeah. And I think that question has the answer of yes. Yes, it does matter.
Yeah.
If it's too far, like kind of like the Spider-Man example.
Yeah.
Like if it's a half spider, half man, centaur kind of thing. If the movie's actually good, like it still matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like with some of this stuff, like
because they've done that to him in episodes or in comics.
Like World War Z. Like if World War Z was a critical masterpiece.
Yeah.
Would it really matter that it wasn't perfect to the actual book?
Yeah. Well, it would. The question: it would matter to a few, but to the masses, it would probably just be acceptable.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Answer that question. As long as the adaptation's good, does it matter if it sticks to the source material?
And let us
comment.
know.
Yeah, comment on us. Like hit our Facebook wall.
Yeah.
Comment. Throw the answer at us on Twitter. Just let us know what you think.
Give us examples of what you think were good adaptations or bad ones.
Let's open a dialogue on this. Let's talk about this more on the interwebs. But that's it for Topic Thunder. And now we're going to talk about some jams.
What's your jam?
Hey, Tori.
Yes, Chris.
What's your jam?
Oh, man, Chris. So I'm not going to be able to talk too much about my jam because I'm
Spoiler
sure...
alert.
Exactly. Spoiler alert. But I really won't spoil it. But Sherlock Series 4.
So good.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, Moriarty's back.
Moriarty
we know
is...
that.
Well, you know, Moriarty is back. And so really what it comes down to, at least there's you know, different interactions that happen with him. And really the season finale of Series 4, because I'm even at that point, is the best Sherlock episode that I have seen. It is a stunning masterpiece that really gets into the heart of all the characters, and it just pulls it out and really makes them into who we want them to be, and then maybe who we don't. And that's the beauty of the show. And so I will say from episode 1, you are in for a wild ride.
Nice.
And it's like to the episode 3, it is just an adventure of being wrapped up into it. If you listen to our last episode, it just pulls you in to the point where you care so much about these characters. And you already did, but they just made it go one step further. So yeah,
nice. That's
my jam.
Nice.
Chris.
Yes.
What's your jam?
My jam is Community. Michael and I have been watching Community.
Love it.
Going back and watching it. It's been a really, really great time. We're almost done with season 1, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
The characters are so great. It's such a funny comedy, and it's so it's funny to watch now because it's so much older, and they're like talking about things and like using different pieces of technology that like we don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess at any point that's going to happen.
Sure.
But it's just so fun. I love all the characters. I love Donald Glover, Danny Pudi. Like going back and watching it and watching Abed. It's so exciting knowing that Powerless is right around the corner. Danny Pudi's in that. It's so funny. It's such a good show. But yeah, that's my jam. Community. Just been rewatching that lately.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's it. That's it for the show. We are done here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
If you're interested in being a sponsor, check out Patreon. It's kind of like Kickstarter, but monthly. That's at betweenthecons.com/Patreon or patreon.com/betweenthecons. Satchel, it's a new podcast player where you can tip and tweet while listening. And then at the bottom of our website, we have a search bar for Amazon.com. So check that out. Use that. Lastly, check out our website, betweenthecons.com,
Yep.
where you can stream our episodes online. Link out to all our social media.
Yeah.
And if you like our theme music, check out Afixa. He makes the dopest dubstep.
It's fantastic.
And make sure you guys tune in on Thursday because
Oh, yeah.
MF Dane's going to be back, and we are going to be filling you in on all the latest and greatest nerdy news and Pineapple. So that being said, you guys have a great week,
Absolutely.
and we will talk to you on Thursday.
Talk to you then.